I'm Logan Webb, and you're listening to TortureCast.
Swinging. There's a high drive. Deep into left center field. It's on its way. Adios! Pelota!
Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Let's go Giants! SF Giants!
A grand slam for Buster Posey's good friend.
A podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Chad King, Eric Nathanson, and Willie Dills. This is the TortureCast.
It's Wednesday, August 6th, 2025, and this is episode 320 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and Willie's on a little bit of a vacation with his family, but you know what? You got your Giants family right here, right? You got myself, and we got Eric Nathanson. How you doing, man?
I'm enjoying Giants baseball again because I don't care. So I'm doing great. It's been a fun week of watching games and seeing the team actually come through. Today was a fun game. I woke up in the eighth inning right as they tied the game and then won the game in the ninth. So it's been a little better. 320, huh? We're almost at 420, man. We almost blazed it, but we're not there quite yet. So it's been a good week of baseball. How's it going over there?
Yeah, 420 I think is still several years away. Hopefully we're still doing this by
Probably.
then. I don't know. We're getting so old now, but
A lot of gray.
yeah, it was funny because we were texting each other, the last week or so, and you guys brought that up, and I thought it was an appropriate point. There's some times where, like, for example, this is the way I felt in years past. The years they were in the playoffs, I get so nervous. Like, I swear I'm the most nervous Giants fan out there. I know I'm not, but I feel like I am. And the years that they didn't make the playoffs, I'm like, well, at least I don't have to stress about the Giants. I'll just watch baseball. And you're right. I think with the Giants just all but mathematically being out of the playoffs, it's just kind of like this, okay, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Let's just worry about, developing the young players, watching some of the pitchers, these trades that happen, see how they develop in terms of their return on investment. And then, reload for next year and see what happens. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a silver lining per se, but it definitely it makes you a little bit less stressed about everything. And we have no control over this, Eric. The Giants just crapped the bed, and I don't know if there's an explanation for it. We tried to dissect it a little bit last week. But you know what? Since then, they did make two more big trades the day after we recorded, which was the deadline. We knew that was probably going to happen. And we hypothesized that Doval was going to go, which, of course, he had been widely talked about. And indeed, he did get traded to the Yankees. I'd say the one that it wasn't a surprise, and you were certainly you were really rallying for this. You were crying for this. You're like, get rid of Yaz.
I was so happy.
And they must have listened to you because, they traded Mike Yastrzemski to the Kansas City Royals. And one thing I can say about this is, Buster Posey played with these guys, right? So for him, it was really, really different to have to pick up the phone. In fact, I have a couple of quotes here. He said, "We wanted to be in a different position to add." This was during a Zoom call last week after the trade. Quote, "Unfortunately, with the way we played, we had to make a decision here to try and add some talent that we feel can help us moving forward. I knew when I took this job that one of the harder parts was going to be at some point moving on from guys that I had a personal relationship with and that I played with. That's not an easy phone call or conversation to have in person." And like you saw him with Tyler Rogers, and we, theorized that he'll be offered a spot with the Giants next year. And actually that had been brought up. I don't have the quote here, but Tyler actually addressed it and said, we talked about it. And he said, if everything goes, maybe, but right now I got to help the Mets win. So he kind of gave the PR, standard response, but he did give a little bit of insight to maybe wanting to come back to the Giants. But you were happy that Yaz is gone. I mean, he was kind of, I still, he's definitely forever Giant. and he had some great moments. You know, you look at his 5 walk-off home runs he had. Here's a video highlight reel of that. And he was glorious defensively most of the time. He just had that wonderful catch into the right field netting the day before he was traded. But other than that, he was just kind of a serviceable outfielder, nothing special. And so I think the Giants, other than the name recognition and the longevity and tenure with the Giants, I guess it was time to move on. You know, they weren't going to, he's 35 years old, Eric. I mean, he's not going to suddenly get better, right?
He was in the way is really what it is. And I love Yaz. Yaz has the 4th most splash hits all time. So, you know, you got to give him credit for that. It goes Bonds, Belt, Pablo, and then Yaz, and then LaMonte Wade Jr., ironically, who will come up later. But, you know, Yaz was a good Giant. I'll never forget when he burst on the scene back in 2019, I believe it was, against the Orioles, which was the team that we had gotten him from. But if you look at the trades, Rogers, Doval, Yaz, and then you look at Wade, who was, cut earlier this season, they're all teammates of Buster. The only teammates that Buster has left are Logan Webb and Wilmer Flores. I just went through the roster, and those are the only 2 that I can peg were with the team in 2021, Posey's last year. So it couldn't have been easy for Buster to do that, you know, and like you said in the quotes, you know, the personal relationship and the fact that he played with them, you know, it's weird in a way that all 3 guys traded at the deadline were all former teammates of the now president of baseball operations. But yeah, specifically, it was just time to move on. They need to give some other people some chances in right field. McRae's getting his chance right now. You know, it's possible that Drew Gilbert, who they got in the Rogers deal, might get his shot in right field. Gerard has been playing right field, but that's probably done. You know, so it just felt like Yaz was in the way. No, oh my God, it's ridiculous. Yeah, Yaz was so frustrating because, I mean, if I had to watch that guy take another fastball, middle, I was gonna, pull my hair out, although I really can't, I just shave my head. But like, it's so many times the hitting philosophy of the Giants was shown in the way Yastrzemski went to the plate. And I don't know if it's part of the overall philosophy, but that was why I was so big on getting Yaz out. He's still an excellent outfielder, has a great arm, beautiful instincts, and great range, as we saw with that amazing catch he had in his final game as a San Francisco Giant. So, you know, it is sad to see him go. Yaz did provide some great memories. He had a walk-off, I think, grand slam one time against the D-backs or Padres. I don't remember who it was, a few years back. And he was really a big part of that magical 2021 season. But it was time for them to move on. And, you know, we'll go over the hauls. Yaz was the smallest haul out of all of them. You know, they got the most back for Rogers and Doval. And, you know, quickly on Doval might flame out. He is such a candidate to burn out. And I don't know about you, but I got tired of watching him a little bit. You know, runners get on base. He seems to short circuit. He still has an issue with the pitch clock. You know, you could just never, he has electric stuff, but it's not trustworthy. And so I was okay with all 3 moves. I respect Buster. I don't think Farhan would have made the same moves. And I think as a whole, it signaled a change in the philosophy of the Giants organization.
Yeah, just to get back to Yaz real quick, I will say that he gave me and my son just an incredible memory with that walk-off 10th inning splash hit against the Reds earlier this year.
Yes, this year.
When we were there, that was incredible. Willie was there too, so we all got to experience that. That was an incredible moment. And yeah, he had some great years. And, you know, for him and Rogers, they had their contracts expiring at the end of the year. So these are rentals for their new teams. And that's when, you know, a team like the Giants, they have to strike because they're potentially only losing out on 2 or 3 months of service of these guys, but yet getting players that might be around for quite some time. So it just makes sense to do that. And, you know, all these players may not work out. And like you said, Camilo Doval, his first appearance as a Yankee, he blows the save. I mean, it's just like, I was like, well, there you go, Yankees, you know? Yeah, his stats aren't always the worst, but he just never has clean innings. He has wonderful stuff. He just can't control it all the time. He does have a problem with the pitch clock, you know, the walks, it's very, very frustrating. And so the guy he had enough chances here in San Francisco, many, many years here. And I think he's fourth on the all-time saves list now for the Giants, which is incredible to even think that.
Wow.
But it just look. We went through this with Rob Nen and Rod Beck and all these guys. Every closer has either sketchy times or near the end of their tenure with the Giants, it just kind of flames out. And I'm not saying he was flaming out, not by any means, but I don't know if he was ever going to develop into that truly elite closer. He's a decent closer, but he wasn't an elite closer. So I think the Giants can move on from him. They do have Randy Rodriguez, all-star, waiting in the wings. Of course, what does he do in his first save opportunity? He coughs it up in Pittsburgh, I guess, the other day. That wasn't good. He walked a guy, hit a guy, and there was a couple of hits, and the Giants lost the game. That was one of their 2 losses this week. So it was a little frustrating, but Randy is gonna try and settle into that new position. But yeah, let's go over the haul real quick. We know that Rogers, we kind of went over this too. They got the reliever and really the only major league level player at this moment, Jose Butto. They also got Blake Tidwell, a right-handed pitcher, and then Drew Gilbert, who you just mentioned, as an outfielder who might be ready fairly soon. From the Yankees, they got Jesus Rodriguez as a catcher. He's the number 25 prospect in their system. Tristan Dreiling, a right-handed pitcher, their number 19 prospect in the system. Parks Harbor, a corner infielder, and then Carlos De La Rosa, a left-handed pitcher. And then from Royals, it was just one guy, Junior Marte, a right-handed pitcher. So it's a haul, but only one guy's in the bigs right now.
Yeah, Tidwell, I think, pitched yesterday or something and had like 7 Ks, which is a good sign. Gilbert, I believe I've already seen have extra base hits. So I think that they did the best, obviously, in the Mets and the Yankees trade. The key for the Yankees trade sounds like Jesus Rodriguez, the catcher, who was the Yankees' number 25 prospect. Mm-hmm. Sounds like he could be somebody down the road. Like, if the ABS system gets brought in, if the new way of calling balls and strikes actually happens, Patrick Bailey might be out of a job because half of his value is in handling the pitching staff and framing and taking care of those things. And so the Giants might decide to go more offense. And from what I've read, Jesus Rodriguez is decent at that. And then Carlos De La Rosa, the left-handed pitcher, is a very intriguing prospect. I believe he's only 17, maybe?
He's 17.
And
he was born in 2007, guys. 2007. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah, I was listening to my buddy Brooks Knutson's Pitchers Park podcast the other day, and I heard him say that, and I audibly went like, what? Really? Oh, my God, that's crazy.
My daughter was born in 2005, and my son was born in 2009, and he's going to be a sophomore in high school. Think about that. That's insane.
That is insane. 2007 still feels like a couple years ago. That's just,
That's when the Giants hosted the All-Star game. That's weird.
Yeah. Ichiro!
Oh, my God. Yeah, that was Bonds last year, too. That's right.
Yeah. Ichiro had an inside the Parker in the game. Not unlike, a little unlike Patrick Bailey's, but it was the same thing, crazy kick. But yeah, 2007. Yeah. But it's a flyer on a 17-year-old who has gotten a lot of just pop from the prospect guys who seem to think that he's got stuff that can develop. So, it's worth taking the flyer. I really do think. The Doval trade is my favorite of them, honestly, because he's not somebody who's going to come back and burn them. And like you said, Yaz is 35 and Rogers could be back with the team next year. Like, this was kind of the best we could hope for out of this trade deadline. I can't imagine another trade deadline that would have gone down this way. Relief pitching was at such a premium across the league this year. And Buster saw that and said, all right, well, we're going to strike while the iron's hot. And to get 4 guys from the Yankees for Camilo Doval is just stunning in and of itself. So I applaud Buster in the way that they went around about this to get these guys. Some of these names, Blade Tidwell, Parks Harbor, you know what I mean? It's just so funny what people are named nowadays. And it's like, really? Blade? All right, cool. No problem. No offense if there's anybody listening named Blade. It's just a little weird name.
Did you like the
Daywalker? I still think of, Wesley Snipes when I see the word Blade. So I can't think of that. But I'm happy with the return. I'm happy with the decisions they made. I'm very excited to see what some of these prospects can do. And, we're not a podcast that focuses on prospects too much, but to have our interest piqued tells you that Buster probably did a good job.
Yankees fans are always insufferable. And just overwhelmingly on social media, Yankees fans were saying the Giants got fleeced in this one. In fact, the John Boy Media guys, they host their podcast and they're very famous and popular right now. They were watching, they had a live stream on. Of course, I saw the recording afterwards. And during the trade deadline on the 31st, and when that came across the wire, they were like jumping up in their chairs, literally standing in their chairs. What's his face, who leads John Boy with the beard and all that? I forget his name. He himself was going crazy. They were like so excited about this trade, and they were saying the Giants got fleeced. And I'm sitting there going, really? I don't see it that way. And then sure enough, Doval goes out and blows the save against the Marlins. So I didn't see the reaction to that. But even regardless of his performance, even if he does a great job for the Yankees the rest of the way and helps him in the postseason, I don't see how they could think this is a fleecing of the Giants. I don't get it. I don't see their perspective.
No, I don't either. And it's funny, Doval, he went from being the guy to try to get the save in his first appearance to a seventh inning guy in his second appearance to a sixth inning guy in his third appearance.
I saw
and
that.
He's appeared in 3 games, and the Yankees, and the Yankees have lost all 3 games.
Yikes.
It's just, the Giants might have squeezed the juice, they might have gotten the most juice out of them that they could. It still drives me nuts that in 2021, Doval would not go away from the slider in game 5 against the Dodgers. Throw a freaking fastball, man. Just throw a fastball. Like, I still to this day am upset about that. Like, they could have gotten past the Dodgers in 21. I really feel like Doval blew it at that time. And that's not why, I'm not like happy to see him gone. I did think he was a good pitcher, but it's that tightrope.
Pitcher.
I'm tired of walking that tightrope. I really am. And I think the one thing the Giants are doing in-house that's a disservice is I don't think Randy Rodriguez should be the new closer. I think if he's going to be the closer, you try to go for that next year. He was an all-star as a middle reliever. So leave him in that role. Put Ryan Walker back at the back end of the bullpen. Walker has been pretty good lately, and so I think it messes with Randy's head a little bit, and we saw that in his save appearance against Pittsburgh, which I think was really his first chance to get in there as the Giants closer. So that's the one mistake I feel like they've made in this. But I don't hate the moves that they made. I really appreciate what they're doing right now. Because we've got a lot of future ahead of us. And if the Giants are going to end up a 500 team with room for improvement for next year, there's no telling how much better they could actually be next year. Because they have a decent lineup, as we've seen over the last 6 days. I mean, they've been putting runs up on the board. They've been stringing together innings, big innings. It's been nice to see. Let's see. Yeah, he blown save against Pittsburgh. He got the save against the Mets on the first. So he did get the save against the Mets on his first time out, Randy. But I think that was very tenuous as well. I think the bases were loaded for the Mets, and then the Giants got the final out. Yeah. Right. So, I think they should have kept Randy in just his middle relief position and use Walker as the closer at this point. But I'm not Bob Melvin, so I'm not the one making the calls.
Yeah.
Bob Melvin, sorry.
Seeing him in the Royals blue was weird. It didn't look right at all. But he homered in his first Kansas City at bat, which was pretty cool. But since then, this is not including today's games. He's 3 for 13. That's a 231 average, which is exactly his average with the Giants this year, 231. That was strange. Like you said, Doval blew his first save. He's now given up 1 earned run, 4 hits, a walk, and only struck out 1 in 2 1/3 innings pitched. And then Rogers threw a shutout inning against the Giants this last week. And so far, he has 3 innings, 1 earned run, and that was a loss, by the way. 5 hits and 1 hit by pitch. So, these are small sample sizes, but just, like to keep the pulse on the former Giants and see how they're doing with their new teams.
Yeah, Rogers was a good Giant, too. A guy who came up through the organization like he did, finally got the chance. I think his heart is in San Francisco. And I think Yaz's heart is also in San Francisco as well. Like, I can literally see Yaz being a part of the organization when he retires. He does seem like a guy that's going to come back into the fold. I know him and his wife. This is where their kids were born, was San Francisco.
Yep.
So I can see him coming back as part of the not to play, but as part of the organization. Tyler Rogers is the biggest asset they lost out of this. That guy has been phenomenal. He's thrown the most. He has the most appearances in baseball since his debut. And so he's just a guy you could count on every day, every 2 days. I mean, when you throw 83 and it comes from underneath, it's not as taxing on the arm. It just isn't. Physically, it isn't. So he was able to do his thing. So I think I'm going to miss Rogers the most, honestly. I know he's been a divisive rod a lot of times for Giants fans because of him being a soft tosser, but he was just so consistent and everybody knew they could count on him. So I'm going to miss Rogers.
He's never been for our podcast. I think sometimes the knee jerkers out there, they see this soft frisbee stuff coming in, and when it gets hit over the fence, they go, well, no wonder, look at that stuff. Why is he out there? He sucks. And you look at his stats, and you're like, bro, he doesn't suck at all. Yeah, he's going to give up a frisbee homer once in a while, but look at his overall stats. What's crazy is he's been in the Giants system, including minor leagues, 13 years. 13 years. That is incredible. I didn't even realize it was that long.
That's almost as long as Carlos De La Rosa has been alive.
Yeah. Carlos De La Rosa was 4 years old when Tyler Rogers entered the Giants system. So yeah, he's got a lot of Giants. He bleeds a little bit of orange. Well, he still does with the Mets now. I definitely can see him back because like you said, the durability is there. Yaz left a very heartfelt social media post penned by him talking about how much he treasures San Francisco. I don't have it up right now, but I think you're right. I think he did leave his heart in San Francisco. Sing it, Tony. And maybe he will end up back here. Not to play because he's going to be age 36 starting next year. He'll probably land with someone. But he doesn't have that much time left. We all know that. Maybe a year or two tops. And then, he'll have to exit stage left. And maybe he'll end up back up in the Giants organization. And then Doval, no, he's not coming back to the Giants. I think I feel like that ship is not even possibly sailing back to the gates of San Francisco. So.
No, he might be happy to be out of San Francisco, honestly, because he got jerked around in so many different roles in so many different ways. Yeah. It's a combination of him and the way he was treated as to why his stats were and his output was what it was. So, I'm okay with that. It's a good haul. The Giants, when you go through all the trade deadline, grades that all the different sites do, I'm going through the Athletic, and the Athletic only gave an A to 5 teams from the trade deadline, and the Giants were one of the 5 teams. Mm-hmm. And you got to give credit to them for that fact, and they were very precise in their moves. They didn't just broadly do anything, and so they made the club better for the future, which is the point when you're selling at a deadline. So I'm very happy to see it.
I saw a lot of grades out there for the Giants, 5 or 6 at least, and never saw anything lower than an A-. So everyone was giving them A's and A-. So I do feel pretty good about the pedigree of people who study this for a living. Agreed also that they got a good haul for it. And look, I know everyone makes a big point out of the Giants have the worst record in the majors since the Devers trade. Well, it's not because of Devers himself. They didn't get worse because of Devers. The team just started sucking. It was coincidental. And I don't think Devers is a cancer. I don't think he had some bad juju on him or anything like that. It's just the team was overperforming perhaps, and now it's coming back to the mean, or it just cratered, whatever it is. But Devers is certainly an asset that they're going to value going forward. I mean, boy, when he gets hold of the ball, he gets hold of the ball. It goes places. God. It's really good. And, he struggled a little bit at first base, but, you got to give him a little bit of slack there. And like you said, or we were talking pre-show, might as well bring it up now. Bryce Eldridge has been just tearing the cover off the ball in AAA. 4 bombs in his last 3 games, and he plays a wonderful first base. So there is that possibility that if he forces, maybe not at the end of the year, although that is a possibility. Buster Posey already poo-pooed the idea of calling up Eldridge anytime soon. And you and I both agree it's too early for him anyway. But let's say it's next year, if not the end of this year, even for a cup of coffee. He'll be taking over first base. So where do you put Devers, right? Is he slotting back to DH? Does he want to play in the infield like he did in Boston? I don't know. Certainly he's not going to take over third. because of Chappie.
Right.
So there
There's
really
nowhere
isn't
for
any-
him to play.
There's nowhere for him to go. He's too big of a guy to really go anywhere else. He's not going to play middle infield, and he certainly isn't going to play outfield. So yeah, that's it. He's a corner guy. That's it. So yeah,
Well,
they're going to have
funny.
some things to figure out.
Well, if you think about it, we started the season with basically a giant hole at first base.
Yeah.
And by the end of the season, it's like they have three first basemen now between Devers, the possibility of Eldridge, and Dominic Smith. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Smith has been a really good Giant. He's been good off the bench. He has an 11-game hitting streak right now. He's driven in 9 runs during that hitting streak.
I didn't know
Yeah, he's
that.
hitting 351 over the hitting streak, 9 runs driven in, 13 for 37. And the last 2 times he's come in and pinch hit late against the Mets the other day and today against the
And
Pirates,
today.
he's come through. Right. So, I mean, I think Dom's a perfect bench candidate. But then next year, what do you do with Devers and Eldridge? Like I was literally just talking to the Giants chatter guys in our group chat about this right before you and I came on air, and it's like, you know, this is a great conundrum to have for the Giants. It's amazing, but Dom is the reason they don't need to rush Eldridge up this year.
Yeah.
There's no reason to come see what he's going to do. Let him, you know, work on his K rate. Let him work on his walk rate down in AAA. Let him build up some confidence so that when he does get the invite to Major League Spring Training next year, he has some confidence behind him. Because if you bring up Eldridge in September and he goes like 2 for his first 15, you know, it might crush the kid. And there's no reason to do that to your number 1 prospect at this point. So I'm totally good with Eldridge, you know, staying down in the minors, continuing to stroke the ball to left center field like he has. I mean, some of these bombs are just, he's got such an easy swing. He's a tall guy. And just the way his bat flies through the zone, it looks so easy from him. But, I mean, this season's a loss. There's no reason to look at him. Let him go pound in AAA, especially in the Hitters Pacific Coast League, and gain that confidence so that, you know, they don't rush him up too early. There's no reason to bring him up in September. They're fine with Devers and Smith, and to a lesser extent Flores when he's healthy at first base. So I think Dom Smith could be the new Wilmer Flores going forward as the guy coming off the bench. I don't think he's necessarily a starter, but I mean, like I said, you know, his last 2 times coming in a pinch hit late in games, he's come through. What was Wilmer known for? That. So I'm kind of good with that at this point. So Eldridge, as great as he's been, let him do his thing in AAA this year. I know he's going to be done at the end of August. There's only a month left in the minor league season, but that's fine. You know, he can go down to Arizona and get some at-bats if they really need to look at him anymore. Don't bring him up now.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does get a call-up just because. Buster Posey, that's what happened to him. You know, he had like...
That wasn't going to be my example, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of one of those famous examples there. Boy, we're almost 30
Buster
minutes
came
into
up
this thing.
in 09.
That's right. It was September of 2009. And then it took off like a rocket in 2010 and helped him win a World Series. And it was Rookie of the Year. We are 30 minutes in, and we haven't even talked about how they did this week. It shows you how much of a less of a focus we have on their performance on the field right now. But yeah, since the trade deadline passed, they are 4-2. They went on the road. Okay, they had their 0-6 meltdown at home against the Mets and the Pirates, and then they reversed and went out to the Mets and the Pirates, and they took 4 out of 6. And one of them was a blown save. So in reality, they were very close to taking 5 of 6. But you know, the performance was good. It was much better. They had some timely hitting. They weren't quite as anemic. The starting pitching was much better on the road. You know, Ray and Logan looked really, really good, and they were kind of getting back to their old ways for this short week. But it was great. It was great to see them do that. They are cresting 1 game above 500 again at 58 and 57. Yet they are still a full 5 games out of the 3rd and final wild card spot, and they have the Reds ahead of them as well. So it's really 2 teams they would have to leap, and this is why you start to get into that. Let's not think about this, guys. Like 5 games and 2 teams with 40 some odd games left is not a lot of time to do that in. You have to play exceptional ball. They have to play close to 700 ball to have a chance to do that. So I'm not gonna sit there and wish for anything until they close to within maybe 2 or 1 game and they're the only one behind. Could that happen? Yes, but not likely.
I mean, it was still an impressive road trip. Jung-Hoo Lee had an extra base hit in every single game on this road trip. 5 doubles and 1 triple. He had 10 hits. He hit 417 on this road trip. He had 4 hits on Sunday. Got on base 5 times, and it's kind of nice to see Lee get back to what he's doing. Crazy enough, Ramos also had 10 hits on this road trip, and not a single one was an extra base hit.
Huh, really? I didn't know that.
Right? His power is just like gone all of a sudden. But he hit 385. Devers showed some power and some pop on this road trip. Casey Schmidt, I don't know about you, but when I watch him swing, you can tell he's kind of figured some things out. So they look pretty good on the offensive side of the ball. Losing, blowing the save on Monday is the type of thing that's going to happen when you trade away the back half of your bullpen.
It's going to happen.
Right, which is why it's going to be really difficult to overcome 5 games. But it'll be nice to not have to see the Pirates and the Mets anymore this season. These 2 weeks, I'm so tired of these freaking teams. No offense, Joey Bart, but I don't need to see you anymore. It's been enough. So it's good that they were able to bounce back a little bit. But to go 0-6 at home and then 4-2 on the road against these teams, it's kind of a nice bounce back. It is good to see a little life from the team.
Yeah, you're right. Jung-Hoo Lee, 417 in the last 7 games. That was awesome. Ramos, 385, the same stretch. Schmidt and Smith, they each hit 300, 6 for 20. Adames was only 4 for 27. That's a 148 average. And he had been hot lately. He did have 2 bombs, however. So that's great. Gerard Encarnacion, the guy who just can't seem to get healthy, comes back for 2 games, hits an absolute tank in each, like 400 plus foot, no doubters. You're like, yeah, baby, maybe this guy's coming around. His hamstring goes. So that happened today. He hit one up the middle, and was trying to beat it out at first, and his hamstring went. I haven't heard any diagnosis on him, but as a longtime sufferer of hamstring injuries, and if you're familiar with hamstring injuries, that is not something, even if it's a grade 1 strain, that you are out for a game or 2. Even with a grade 1, it's minimum 10 days to 2 weeks. And if it's worse than that, like a grade 2, we're talking 6 weeks. So Encarnacion, I think, is going to be back on the 10-day IL for sure. It could be longer. And just when it looked like maybe he had found his groove. What are you going to do? Devers was 261 this week. So, there's some bright spots there. Matt Chapman, 2 for 20. He's in a bit of a grind right now, but, we know who he is, so that's not too much of a concern.
Yeah, Chappie, you can see it in a swing lately. He's just not on the fastball as much as he should be. And that's okay. He's also had a couple of atom balls that just totally screw with him. But as an overall whole, like, the offense had a very good week. And, maybe the pressure was off them too. Just like we said, we can shrug our shoulders. Like Monday when they blew the save, I kind of just shrugged my shoulders. I was like, what are you going to do? I literally just turned off the game and went on to do something else in my day. It wasn't that big of a deal.
I was on my phone just looking at the game day updates, and it was like, okay, 5-4 in the 9th inning. I'm like, okay, well, maybe Randy will come in 10 minutes later. Oh, they blew the game. Oh, okay. Well, what am I going to do now?
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe the pressure is off a little bit. Yeah, so it is nice to see the offense kind of coming around and clicking off each other. Like you said, Adames was hot for so long, and they weren't really winning games. And then Adames goes a little cold. Granted, he had 2 homers this past week, but the rest of the team did step up. So, there's plenty of good signs for the Giants offense. This is not a bad baseball team. They are definitely an average baseball team with the ability to be above average. So, there's still a lot of good signs with the Giants and a lot of good reasons to keep watching games.
So what do you think about this Matt Gage guy? He's just been he's been unhittable, man. He's got 15 innings and no earned runs yet.
He made me forget about Eric Miller.
It's pretty impressive. So again, I know it's small sample, blah blah blah, but my lord, that's amazing. Now he has had cups of coffee in the major leagues, so this is the most he's ever pitched in a year. This year, it's 15 innings between Detroit and San Francisco. So it's 9 1/3 for the Giants, 5 2/3 for the Tigers. And with Houston, he only had 6 2/3 innings last year. He gave up 2 earned runs in those 6 innings, so it was a 2.7. And in Toronto in 2022, so actually he didn't play in 24. In 2022, 13 innings, 2 earned runs for a 1.38. So his very short career is a 1.04 ERA over 34 and 2/3 innings. And 31 strikeouts, so almost a strikeout per. Batting average against 197. Where's this guy come from? I don't know much about him, but so far the results are pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's faced 33 batters and given up 4 hits, which I'll take. In 9 1/3 inning, he's given up 4 hits, and like you said, not a single earned run. Ironically, he did allow 2 runners the other day to come in to score that were inherited, but they were not on his record. But I don't totally fault him for that at all. You know, he's got almost a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I don't know where he came from. I mean, I know where he came from. He was actually drafted by the San Francisco Giants back in the day.
2014, round 10.
Yeah, and then he made his way back now. So I like Gage. You know, he's been a good addition. He's somebody that I could see sticking and staying in the bullpen. Between him and if Miller gets healthy, and Lucchesi hasn't been bad as a left-hander in the bullpen either. So, you know, the Giants definitely have some good pieces on the back end of the rotation, back end of the bullpen. I mean, Lucchesi and Gage have both been worth 0.5 WAR according to baseballreference.com. And so I don't know why I did the whole .com thing there. So, you know, you got to say that's pretty good. Like Lucchesi, I've been impressed with him as well. So, you know, like I said, it kind of made me forget that Eric Miller is injured, you know, and Eric Miller is one of the most valuable pieces of the Giants bullpen. So it's been good to see Gage kind of come up. I hope it's sustained. You know what I mean? I hope it's not just a bump because he's with a new team and new stuff. But he's been good to watch. I do not sweat when he comes into the game yet.
Yeah, I feel like I need to look more into him. He's 32 years old. Like you said, he was drafted by the Giants 11 years ago. And yet he's only got 31 innings in the bigs with impeccable stats in those short outings since 2022. So it's like, well, what is his injury history? Maybe that's part of it. I don't know if he's had Tommy John. Sorry if anyone out there is yelling at me because I don't know this. I haven't folled middle inning reliever journeyman.
Matt Gage.
Matt Gage. Sorry.
How do you not know what Matt Gage has been doing?
Who has had a whopping, 22 innings before he came to the Giants in his major league career. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting, but we'll see how that pans out. Let's just talk about injuries real quick because we kind of mentioned that. You just said Eric Miller. We just mentioned Encarnacion. Right now on the website, he's listed as day-to-day with the right hamstring injury. But here it is. The MRI is going to happen tomorrow. So they always list him as day-to-day to buy a day, basically. And then they'll eventually put him on the IL, retroactive to the date of the injury, blah, blah, blah. So I fully expect the 10-day IL to come. Landon
You didn't even mention Wilmer's injury.
What's that?
Wilmer had an injury, too.
Yeah, that was also left hammy.
Right.
So between the two, they each have a left and a right good hammy. They could put them together.
We have the ability. We can build him.
We can do it. It'd be like one of those potato sack races. They could put their good legs on the outside and run to first. So he's still listed as day-to-day. But yeah, he injured himself on August 1st versus the Mets. Landon Roop is out with right elbow inflammation. He went on the IL July 25th, expected to be back sometime this month in August. And, of course, we have the long-term ones, which we don't need to worry about too much. By the way, Matos was optioned back to AAA when Encarnacion came up, but I think Matos is going to get right back on that plane to San Francisco. Well, the bus now to San Francisco.
Yeah.
We'll see. Kai Tang, started the other day. He's still on the roster, so is he slated to make a start this coming homestand? I haven't checked.
They didn't announce it. It's Friday that they need a starter, and they didn't announce it. But it's got to be Kai Tang. Blade Tidwell would be a really good idea to bring him up and get him some starts, but his rest doesn't line up, so it's going to be Kai Tang, I'm sure, on Friday.
And boy, I completely neglected to mention Carson Wisenhut had a great start here on this last road trip. And Justin Verlander had a good start as well. No earned runs in 5 innings. He didn't get the win, although he did finally get his first win with the Giants on this, what was it, the last trip or the last road trip, I guess he did. But anyway, he finally got the one win. So him and Carson Wisenhut are tied in wins now this year.
Yeah. Wiz did it in 2 games. It took Verlander 20.
Yeah,
You're
crazy,
right. Wiz looked good on Sunday against the Mets. He really is an interesting fastball changeup combination.
Yeah.
His changeup disappears and fades away a little bit. So I'm really curious to watch Wiz and Hunt the rest of the year. His first start was a little shaky the first 2 innings, but he settled down. And then his next start out, like we just talked about against the Mets on Sunday, he looked good. So, I'm curious to see him keep going. If we get a rotation of Webb, Ray, Roop, Wiz and Hunt, and Verlander for the rest of the season, I'd be fine with that. Landon, Roop, Loop, that's what did it for me. I'd be fine with that the rest of the season. There's really no need to look at anybody else. Kai Tang could probably slide in the bullpen or just get sent back down and do more starts when Roop is healthy. So I hope Wiz, his next start, and I'm sure he'll get another start this weekend. I hope he performs as well as he did on Sunday.
When the Giants were tied, we talked about this last time for the NL West. They have gone 17-28 since. What really struck me is it seems like, I'm a stat guy. I'm a scientist myself, so numbers don't lie. And this is why I double checked myself. I felt like a lot of their losses lately were in the late innings or by 1 or 2 runs, and it felt like a lot of their wins, ironically, were by more runs. 9-3, 9-0, right? These kinds of things. And I'm like, are their losses much closer than their wins? Like, what's going on here? That is not the case. I forget about the 12-2 loss, the 13-0 loss. There's been a few in there that have kind of skewed the stats, but I added it all up, and since they were tied for the NL West lead and gone 17-28, in their losses, they were outscored by an average of 6.2 to 2.8, and in their wins, they outscored their opponents by an average of 6.1 to 2.6. Remarkably close, those gaps. So their losses and wins, on average, were fairly similar. So that kind of rested my worries that they were suffering too many of these close losses. That said, 13-0 and 12-2s are going to skew those numbers a little bit, but wasn't as bad as I had thought.
Still a bit Jekyll and Hyde-ish. It really kind of is the Jekyll and Hyde of the Giants.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. And then, forever Giant LaMonte Wade, who DFA'd and eventually settled with a trade with the Angels. We kind of surmised that maybe something happened. He just hit the wall, or like you said, he just doesn't have the discipline that he did have discipline, but the league has
learned discipline, right?
Yeah, the league has learned how to exploit that, and he hasn't counterattacked it by swinging at certain pitches. He was just DFA'd by the Angels. He ended up going only 11 for 65. That's a 169 batting average. Very close to his 167 batting average with the Giants. However, his power numbers, which were already dreadful with the Giants, were even worse with the Angels. Only 1 home run, only 3 RBIs in that entire time, Eric. 3. 23 Ks in 65 at-bats. The guy's always had a fairly low strikeout rate, but it increased this year with the Giants to like 20%. And here we go, 23 and 65. That's more than a third. And then his on-base percentage was only 260, so his walk rate was still down a little bit. The guy just, I don't know. He's a free agent now. I don't think anyone's going to sign him for the rest of this year. That wouldn't make any sense. Maybe his career's over. I don't know. I would like to think late night Lamont has something left in him, but unless he takes a minor league deal, that's just not going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah, he's going to be a non-roster of the Sacramento A's next year. Watch that happen.
Yeah. And then he'll have a renaissance because some hitting guru will go, "They are pitching around you. This is what you need to do."
But, will he even do it? Expand the zone, man.
Yeah. Start hitting right-handed and invert the bat. That's what I'll do. That'd be awesome. And then, before we get out of here, I thought this was neat to note. I wanted to kind of introduce a little new segment. Maybe we'll continue with it. Just basically, kind of news around the major leagues. This was kind of a big one. But the first female umpire is scheduled to umpire this weekend's Braves game. So I think that's pretty cool. They've had them in, women in AAA umpire. They've had them in spring training, but a woman has never umpired a regular season major league baseball game. And the reason this is happening is she'll be behind home plate for the series finale on Sunday between the Marlins and Braves in Atlanta. It's a doubleheader, and the doubleheader necessitates adding a fifth umpire to the crew since each home plate umpire skips the other game they're not working. So she's going to work the last game behind the plate. It's not even just umpiring. She's like literally behind the plate umpiring, not even a base umpire. Because I know that, Nacken here in San Francisco, it was a big deal because she was the first female coaching staff member. And she had a couple of cups of coffee, if you will, out on the base paths, but most of her time was spent in the dugout and warming up players before the game. But this is pretty cool. And as you, again, the former, amateur umpire, I think it's pretty neat, don't you?
Yeah, we had a female in our umpire school the year that I went, and she was good. And most of us didn't even think twice about the fact that she was female. We didn't care.
Oh yeah,
baseball. That's the thing. It's really cool to see that. Both basketball and football have had female officials for years now.
They have
for many years, and
football and NBA, 100%.
Right, and those are kind of more testosterone-driven sports, which is really what makes it impressive that women have been able to hold their own and not care. I love that. So I like the fact that Jen Powell is going to be coming in. It reminds me of Pam Postema. I don't know if you remember that name at all. In 1988, she was the first female baseball umpire to officiate a spring training game. And so I remember it was a big deal. She was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Pam Postema. It was really, she's written a book about it. You've got to have balls to make it in this league. My life as an umpire. Obviously, I just Googled it.
Well, yeah.
Her name just popped
to have
up
that on common knowledge.
Well, the fact that I still remember her name, and it was 1988 when I was 9 years old,
Sure.
it shows that it made an impression. So if that lady who did spring training games in '88 left an impression on me, imagine what Jen Powell can do to make an impression on other girls now coming up. And so I think it's really cool. I might tune in, at least check out the highlights of that game, because there's no reason a woman can't do the same job. There really isn't. There's
no reason.
It's all about controlling the game and making the calls that you see in front of you. And it doesn't matter if you're female or a male, you're just there to do a job. So I love it. I think it's great. I think it's cool that I didn't realize because of double headers that they had to have an extra umpire. Like I knew that teams get to have a 27th player, but I didn't know that an extra umpire got into the rotation for that. So I think that's kind of cool. And I applaud her, pioneer, good for her. And, maybe it'll break the way open for others. It's just a matter of if there's enough females out there that want to do that in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the difference between why it's happened more in basketball and football than it has in baseball. I think there's just been more females who want to get out there and do it in basketball and football because more women watch basketball and football than probably baseball. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of women who watch baseball. There are women that I talk to that I am friends with that are smarter than people in front offices and can make the moves that people need to make. Mm-hmm. So it's just surprising that it took so long for baseball to be that. But I think it's more because there was a lack of the amount of women trying to break in. So I love it. As an umpire, former umpire, I think it's great. The first game I ever umpired in my life, I was 10 years old, and it was at a field called Old Farm. And my partner for the game, I was on the bases behind the plate for that game, was a girl named Erin Doyle. So literally the first game I ever umpired in my life was with a woman, or I guess a girl, because we were 10. But so I've never thought twice about it. You know what I mean? I never thought they were incapable.
Yeah, and it shouldn't matter. But I definitely wanted to make a note of it because I think it's important that, baseball maybe will be leaning in that direction. Hopefully she's not like the first and last for 10 years or something like that. I would hate to see that. I don't want this to be a publicity stunt for just a one-time thing. I think it should be better. Her background is interesting. She did play softball at Hofstra. And then in the Amateur Softball Association major fast pitch level for 10 years before making the transition to umpiring. She also worked as an umpire in college softball games and umpired the Big Ten Conference from 2013 to 15. And then she went to the 2016 minor league baseball umpire training academy in Vero Beach in Florida, and earned her first assignment in the Gulf Coast League, now known as the Florida Complex League. So, and at that time, she was the 7th female umpire in minor league baseball history. So it's pretty cool. She's been doing this for roughly 10 years, and she's finally cracking and getting a shot at the majors. Again, maybe not permanently right now, but at least she's getting a taste. So, how much do you...
If she earned it, she earned it.
Yeah, she's been doing this for 10 years in the minors and the previous 3 years in college. So she's been doing this a long time, plus she played a long time. And I think there's a lot of umpires that maybe they played in high school or little league, but a lot of them didn't play college ball, so she might even be more qualified than a lot of other umpires starting their careers. I know these umpire academies are huge. Do you have any idea about the numbers and how they play out in terms of like how big a typical academy class is, how many might go see action in the minor leagues, and then do you have any idea the percentage of umpires that eventually make it to the majors? Because obviously there's not many, right? You have 15 games a day max with 4 umpires at each game. So that's 60 umpires plus all your reserves and rotations. And they have substitutions. This year, I guess there's been 17 AAA umpires that have substituted so far. But it's got to be less than 100 umpires in the major leagues right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say this. When I went to Harry Wendelstedt School in 2004, my class was 125 people. From those 125 people, 20 were recommended to go to PBUC, which is basically getting into that minor league system. And then you go there and perform. And from there, they pull certain people. There's only one person from my class who has made it to the major leagues, and that's it. So that shows you how hard it is.
Yeah.
To make it into the major leagues as an umpire. My best saying has always been, I found out I was a big fish in a little pond and then a little fish in a big pond. Because, you think you know what you're doing, you think you've got it down, and then you go and there's these other umpires that are just better than you. And, part of it is, and I'll give credit to people, and this probably happened with Jen, if you hadn't umpired much in the past, you actually had a better chance of moving on because you don't have bad habits. The umpire schools,
that's interesting.
The umpire communities, they look for you to be trained in a certain way. And those of us that had been doing it for years, like I attended umpire school when I was 24 years old. So I'd been umpiring, like I said, I was 10. So I'd been umpiring for 13, 14 years at that point. I developed bad habits. And it was very tough for me to get out of those bad habits. But like a couple of the guys that I saw that really excelled were brand new to it, and they were able to be trained in the ways of being a professional umpire. So I think that that's probably something that helped here, is that if that was her first foray into doing it, is you don't develop those bad habits. There's certain things like tunnel vision, like when you're behind the plate, you have to follow the ball all the way to the glove. But a lot of us, we see it right as it comes over the plate, and then our focus stays out in front of the plate, and we don't follow it to the glove. And that was one of my biggest problems. There's certain footwork that you need to do around the base pass and things like that. There's certain footwork you need to do behind the plate. And if you've been doing it one way for 10, 15 years, it's really hard to break you of those habits.
I can see
so
that.
It's the fresh people that come in that really seem to excel. But it's a very difficult field to break into. You see how old some of the umpires are, and they you're basically, it's like being a Supreme Court justice, Yeah. If you get in, you're in.
You're in.
And it's really
like a lifetime appointment.
It really is. The forcing out of umpires does not happen as often as it should, to be honest with you.
Oh, I agree.
Some of these guys probably should not be umpiring who are umpiring today. Thankfully, like an Angel Hernandez got forced out, and he was horrible. Like I still back in like I said, back in 2004, I was in umpire school, and back then the major league umpires I worked with were laughing about how bad Angel Hernandez was.
That's
so sad. It was totally sad. We were coming off the heels of when Steve McMichael called out Angel Hernandez at Wrigley Field when he did the stretch, and Angel threw immediately responded with Angel's just a joke. So, you're going to get that to happen every now and then. But because it is such a lifetime appointment, it makes it tough to break into the field, which is only one guy from my class has made it that far. There's a couple other guys still banging around the minors, but that's it. And we're talking, what is this, 2025? We're talking 21 years ago that I was at the umpire school. So, these guys are in their 40s now. It's really funny to me, though. Like, Dan Bellino is a crew chief, and he was a guy that taught me, and I got along with great. Vic Carapazza is another one. Ed Hickox is another one. Sam Holbrook. Like, these are all major league umpires I got to know at the school, and just to see the fact that they can stick and stay, they're never going to leave their jobs. They're just never going to leave their jobs. So it's a very difficult field to break into. Do I wish that I had done it? Would my life be different today? Obviously. But I totally understand why it's so difficult. So I'm guessing for Jen, like many of the good umpires that are out there, she was fresh off of her playing days and decided she wanted to stay in the game somehow. And she was able to soak up the knowledge in a way that a lot of us who had bad habits couldn't. So that's my best assessment of it.
Yeah, no, it was great when Angel Hernandez retired at the beginning of last year. I think he just finally had enough pressure and he was out of there. I do think it should be like the Premier League or whatever in football / soccer or whatever, that, if you're in the bottom 10%, let's say, in terms of your accuracy and consistency and however they want to grade that with, the ABS type system and or calls that are reversed by challenges, then you should lose your spot, right? And you should have the best in the minors come on up. And then you just do that every year. And then the cream of the crop are the ones that work the postseason series. I don't know why.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Why that's a tough thing to
do. Umpires are judged on their ball strike, though. They're not judged on the bangers that they may get wrong briefly on the base pass. As the old saying goes among umpires, it's not the third base umpire driving a Cadillac. So it's the home plate umpire.
It's the home plate umpire. Yeah. No, I get that. But like you said, and they used ABS in the All-Star game, which really wasn't even an issue, but they're talking about potentially using it beginning next year. And once that happens, oh boy, that's going to really change the whole culture of umpiring. And it's going to be interesting. I know they're already using it in the minors anyway, but it's, it's going to really change things, I'd say, on the major league level. There's just going to be a lot less of the issue. You're not just going to tap your helmet and get your challenge. And I know there's still certain limits to the number of challenges they're going to have and all that, but it's going to be fun, I think. And I don't know, maybe it'll take a little pressure off the umpires too. Maybe they can relax a little bit. It doesn't have to be as perfect.
Yes.
So I don't see it as a bad thing, but. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for episode 320 of the Torture Cast. Coming up, the Giants come back home against the Nationals and the Padres. They have a lot of games against the Padres coming up. So I guess the one good thing about that is that they can control their own destiny in that way. The Padres are there in the mix in the wild card, so the Giants could have a hand in knocking them out.
They should beat up on the Nats. Before today, the last 4 games, the Washington Nationals are the first team in Major League Baseball history over a 4-game span to give up 80-plus hits, 50-plus runs, and 10-plus home runs.
Ouch.
Over 4 games, they gave up over 80 hits and 50 runs, which is unbelievable. And if the Giants' offense is clicking like it's been, they should sweep the Nats, no problem.
Yeah.
But they're going home. So we know that might be
I was going to say,
different.
the Giants have suddenly lost, I think 8 in a row at home or something like that. And they still have a winning record at home, which is crazy. I don't know what has happened, but that used to be their home field advantage, and doesn't seem to be the case right now. So maybe they'll regain some of that magic and beat up on the Nats and maybe take 2 out of 3 at San Diego. And if you win 5 out of 6 suddenly, maybe they're 3 games back in the wild card. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But you can follow us as a group at TortureCast on Twitter. I'm not going to use the other name. At ChadK21 and at 2 Out Hits for Eric. That's with the number 2. We're also on Facebook, and you can find everything at torturecast.com. All right, Eric, anything you got going on? Giants chatter is not really chatting right now, is it?
No, we really aren't. But you can join Giants Chatter. We do update when there's moves and stuff like that. But we all have lives now. Like, it was really fun because we created it. Doug Hayes created it back in 2021, and it was just perfect timing. We caught lightning in a bottle. So we had a good 2-3 year run. But everyone that kind of runs it, and we've all kind of had our own things go on. Obviously, I've had my stuff go on. The other guys have all had kids.
I've seen a lot of that.
Congratulations. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, congratulations, Doug. Doug just had a baby boy. So that's cool to see. But so Giants Chatter is just not as active as it once was. But I mean, join it. There's always, good discussions and other knowledgeable fans, because we here at TortureCast like to think we're knowledgeable fans, and we seek out other knowledgeable fans, and Giants Chatter is very similar in that way.
Yeah, no, I get a lot of good stuff from browsing through there. So yeah, even though the shows aren't happening anymore, the conversation continues over there on Facebook, so that's good. Okay, well, that's going to do it. Hey, we actually recorded twice in a week. It's amazing. So we're going to try and keep up with this schedule here. Try to go every week.
You don't have any more boat trips?
No more boat. I actually did have one next week, and it got canceled. So yeah, the ship is having issues. So we are not going. So yeah, in the foreseeable future, I see us recording mostly weekly, but that's always with the asterisk at the end. You never know. We always got to get everyone together, and I'm doing the recording, so it kind of is predicated on my availability as well, lining up with the other guys. Or you could just hear me talk about it anytime, but that would be kind of a boring podcast. I need Eric or Willie with me to do that. I need a conversation, man. I can't talk. These people who host podcasts that just talk by themselves for an hour, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can talk to myself for an hour, but I can't talk to a microphone for an hour. So I don't think you're going to see any of that soon. Anyway, that'll do it for episode 320. We'll see you next week for 321. Until then, go Giants. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.